Hello, my name is Ashley Lothyan, the Curator of Education at the San Bernardino County Museum. Join me and museum volunteer Patti Flores as we journey back in time to the 1800s. So what do you think San Bernardino County looked like in the 1800s? So I found this picture within our history collection from 1852. Patti, what was daily life like in the 1800s?
Pretty much what the picture shows. It was a lot of farming and a lot of day in and day out work. There was no electricity, of course, so the day started at sunrise and ended at sunset. There was a lot of chores that had to be done. Water had to be pumped, wood collected, animals had to be fed. Laundry and ironing could take a couple days, and all the family members, including the children, had to participate.
Today, Patti and I will be discussing a few household items used in the 1800s. Let's take a look. Since washers and dryers weren't around during the time, how were clothes washed, Patti?
Well, back in the 1880s and 1800s, they were really obsessed with cleanliness because they knew that it reduced illness. They just didn't know the germ theory. So washing and cleaning was very important to them. The washboard was kind of a way of washing. They would put it in a tub. They would use their hands and scrub their clothes, and their clothes were quite large, so this wasn't the most comfortable way to wash clothing. The one on the left is a rapid washer. It does resemble something like a toilet plunger today, but actually it's a mechanism that's used in washers today. It goes up and down as an agitator motion. So it did make it a little bit easier to wash clothes with.
Interesting. I'd imagine if they didn't have dryers like we do, the clothes would be pretty wrinkly. How were wrinkles taken care of?
Oh, well, first of all, they had to be hung out when they were dried, and it was environmentally friendly. They used the sun, the wind, ropes, and a clothesline, but it still was very wrinkly due to the type of material they used. So yes, they used something called a sad iron, not because ironing took a day or two to do, but because of actually the word is an archaic word for heavy and dense, and those irons were very heavy during that time, and they had to be heated on wood.
So I did find the one that's shown in the picture here from Education Collection, and it is pretty heavy.
Oh, and you have the trivet that goes with it. That was very important because since it was heated on a stove, it got very, very heavy. In fact, so hot that they would have to wrap something around the handle. But the trivet was used where you wouldn't burn your ironing board or any of your wood surfaces by laying it on there accidentally.
Interesting. So I found this object in Education Collection. What could this been used for, Patti?
Well, many things, but I love my vacuum cleaner. But back in the days, they liked to have carpets and rugs in their homes because it just made it a little more cozy and warm. But it was difficult to clean them, so they had to take them out every day. And this was a rug beater, and literally they would take them out to the clothesline and beat the rug to get the dirt out.
Interesting. So since there wasn't Uber Eats or fast food restaurants during the 1800s, how would meals be prepared? What type of kitchen equipment was used?
Well, actually, the kitchens were quite similar to what we have today, except it was wood stoves. And they did have staples in the kitchen like rice and beans, flour, sugar, salt, eggs, and coffee, and butter. And all those were the staples. But they did use cast iron skillets. They used rolling pins, coffee pots, wooden spoons, and spatulas. What you're showing me today are actually butter churners. The wooden one on the left is actually where you'd put the milk in there, and you would basically go up and down, similar to the rapid washer, and eventually, after 10 or 11 hours, you might get some butter. It maybe didn't take quite that long, but the one on the right was a more modern technology. It's made of glass with a paddle. So when you're turning the handle, it actually spins it like a paddle, and it takes half the time to make butter.
Interesting. So did they have Starbucks in the 1800s? I did find this interesting object right here.
No, I bet they wish they did, but it's the same mechanism, only we have electricity. Beans go in the top, a button is pressed, we get, actually our coffee. But if you open the top there, you see there's an opening. And of course they had solid beans like we use today. You would put a few in there, close the lid, and you would grind it until you wouldn't hear any more grinding sound. And then you knew it was done. You would open the drawer right in the front, and you would have a serving of coffee. Of course, they used tin pots and they were quite large, so you have to do this several times to get a whole pot of coffee.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Patty.
Well, thank you, Ashley.